Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is part 2 of the cast iron fireplace repair. In part 1 I disassembled the fireplace, and during this disassembly I noticed some problems with the cast iron. To unveil all the problems, I started out by cleaning up all of the parts of the fireplace. You can see me here working on one of the side panels, cleaning off the old seal residue. Underneath this old seal residue and a load of corrosion that had been building up over time, I found a number of cracks in the castings. As you can see, this is the base of the fireplace, and there are a couple of bolts that wouldn't come out with some persuasion, so, well, if in doubt, just use an angle grinder and sure enough they'll come out. The reason I took out this plate is because there should be a seal around it, and I guess over time the seal just disappeared, or, well, however, but it was gone, so it needed to be replaced. I can go on with the next step in cleaning up the old residue off and preparing it for some new seals. Well, this was this was the best part of the whole repair, the brazing of the cast iron. Never done this before. I looked up a couple of videos on YouTube. You should check out Keith Fenner, if I'm not mistaken. Or Key Trucker, and they have their own channel on YouTube. I will link them in below in the comments. But they do a great job on how to braze and what to look for. And well, actually this was my first time ever brazing, and well, by just doing a little bit of research and figuring out what kind of materials I would use and the amount of temperature I had to put into it, it did work out quite fine. As of today, the welds are still holding up, and no cracks have occurred since then. And as you can see, well, generally heating it up and feeding in the rod just enough so that it's flowing in quite nicely and not dripping out. You might notice on the bottom side I have a brick laying down just to hold the piece in place. This bracket just, well, came off during disassembly, and it looked like it had been broken for a long time, and so yeah, it just needed to be repaired, and it was a great opportunity for me to, well, try out and do some brazing. And if I say so myself, it turned out quite nice, especially as I've never done this before. I did gouge out the other cracks with the angle grinder and slowly started heating them up and refilling them with some rod to well, build up the material that had been gouged out and to give it some strength again, and making sure that the cracks were completely gouged out so that they wouldn't start over again, or at least not appear again in the future. After the brazing, I just took a angle grinder and smoothed out all the brazing edges, and making sure that the parts were just flowing as they were supposed to flow, making sure that there were no big gaps or any interruptions with the new seal, so that the seals would fit nicely and that the parts would go together as they were designed to go together. And then the final stage, reassembly. I did put in the new seals off camera. It's a roll of a cloth material with a adhesive backing to it, and you simply press it in and make sure it fits nicely, and you cut them to length with a pair of scissors. After the seals were put in, I fitted and refitted the parts multiple times before really screwing them back in, and making sure that they that I didn't forgot any bracing, or that there were no faulty screw holes or something like that, so I could just put everything back together the way it was supposed to be. Well, after test fitting every part and making sure that they were all fitting nicely, I started out by cutting up the bricks and following the lines of the fireplace as best as I could. After all the bricks were cut to size, I laid down a layer of heat-resistant mortar to start gluing in the new bricks. Most of the bricks were already cut to size, and no real fitting had to be done anymore. There were two parts where the bricks were just not fitting just as nicely as I would have hoped, so I had to do a little bit of reshaping to some of the bricks, especially in the corners. After some fiddling with the bricks, everything went in just fine, and the bricks lined up quite nicely. No big gaps. Some of the areas or open pockets in the sides I just filled up with some extra heat resistant mortar,